Robert Garson stood in his study, staring at the invitation yet again. The annual charity gala of formal attire, plus one highly encouraged. At 42, a respected CEO, he was preparing for another year of attending solo while everyone else arrived with their spouses or partners. Jennifer, his late wife, had adored these glamorous nights. It had been 3 years since she passed, taken far too early by an illness that swept through their lives without mercy. Their daughter, Lily, had been only 3 then. Now she was 6. Carrying her mother's soft brown hair and observant eyes. Robert had tried stepping back into the dating world. Friends gently nudged him toward blind dates. Matchmakers made calls, but nothing ever settled right. He couldn't risk introducing Lily to anyone who might vanish from her life, leaving another empty space in her young heart. And if he was honest, he still wasn't whole himself. The grief had dulled over time, but his heart felt sealed shut, locked for so long that the key felt impossible to find. Still, the gala was unavoidable. His company was the main sponsor. Showing up alone again meant another night of sympathetic looks and uncomfortable questions about his personal life. That was when his assistant, Margaret, mentioned an option. A companion service specifically for events. No romantic expectations. No strings, just someone to accompany him in situations where solitude felt like wearing a sign that read unfinished. Robert had hesitated. It felt artificial, almost deceptive. But Margaret had been patient and steady in her reasoning. It isn't pretending, Mr. Carson. It's simply having support in a setting that can feel overwhelming, just like hiring a professional for any other task. So he made the call. The service was discreet and polished. They assured him the companion would be poised, well-versed in formal settings, and respectful of boundaries. Nothing more. Now, adjusting his bow tie in the bedroom mirror, he wondered if he'd made a terrible choice. But retreating wasn't an option. The doorbell would ring any moment. "Daddy," Lily's voice echoed from downstairs. "Someone's here." Robert inhaled and descended the curved staircase. Golden evening light streamed through the tall windows, laying warm shadows across the marble entryway. At the base of the stairs, Lily stood proudly in her beloved pink dress, the one with the fluffy tulle skirt that made her feel like a tiny princess. White bows decorated her hair. She had insisted on dressing up because Daddy's friend was visiting, and standing in the doorway was the woman sent by the service. She was younger than he expected, perhaps in her early 30s. Long blonde hair fell in soft waves down her shoulders, and her black dress held an elegance that was understated yet refined. But it was her smile that caught Robert off guard, a gentle, warm, impossibly sincere as she looked at Lily. There was kindness in her eyes, the kind that couldn't be forced. "You must be Lily," the woman said, kneeling gracefully to meet the child's height. "My name is Claire. Your daddy asked me to join him for a party tonight. And you look absolutely stunning in that dress." Lily lit up. "It's pink." "That's my favorite." "What's yours?" Claire thought for a moment. "I've always been fond of blue. We like a clear, bright sky. But pink is wonderful. It feels cheerful." Robert found himself briefly forgotten, watching the exchange. Claire didn't speak to Lily like she was Smilla. She spoke to her, not down at her. It mirrored the way Jennifer used to talk to their daughter. "I'm Robert," he finally said, stepping closer. "Thank you for being here." Claire stood and offered her hand. Her handshake was steady, soft but confident. "Clara Morrison, it's a pleasure to meet you." "Are you Daddy's girlfriend?" Lily asked with innocent bluntness. Claire didn't miss a beat. "No, sweetheart, I'm just a friend who's keeping your daddy company at his work event. Grown-ups sometimes like to have a friend with them at these big parties, just like you like having friends at your birthday." "Oh," Lily nodded, processing. "That makes sense. Daddy doesn't have many friends anymore. Not since Mommy went to heaven." The words clung to the silence. Robert felt his chest tighten, but Clara's expression never shifted to pity, only gentle understanding. "Then I'm glad I get to be his friend tonight," she said softly. At that moment, Mrs. Walshaw, the longtime housekeeper and grandmother figuria, appeared from the kitchen. She had been with the family since before Jennifer passed and had helped raise Lily ever since. "There's my girl," Mrs. Walsh said warmly. "Come along, Lily. Let your father and Miss Clara head to their event. We've got to." Mrs. Walsh smiled gently. "We've got a movie waiting and popcorn to pop." "Can Claire stay for a little while first?" Lily asked, hopeful eyes wide. "I want to show her my drawings." Robert was about to gently remind her they were running late, but Claire met his gaze and gave a small, reassuring nod. "We can spare a few minutes," she said warmly. So they followed Lily into her playroom, a colorful sea of crayons, picture books, and the delightful clutter only childhood can create. Lily proudly laid out her artwork: bright flowers, simple houses, and stick figure families drawn with big, happy faces. "This is Mommy," she said, pointing at a figure with yellow hair. "She's in heaven now. And this is Daddy and me." And here a broken bar. She tapped an empty space she'd left intentionally. "Someone else might go someday, but I don't know who yet." The words struck Robert like a blow. That tiny blank space on the page felt heavier than anything he'd carried all evening. Claire knelt beside Lily, studying the drawing with the sincerity of someone who understood the fragile honesty of children. "It's beautiful," Claire said softly. "And you know, it's perfectly okay not to know who belongs in that space yet. Sometimes the people who matter most arrive when our hearts least expect them." After a few more moments of admiration and chatter, they said their goodbyes, and Robert and Claire stepped out toward the car. The drive to the Gala's hotel started in silence before Robert finally spoke. "I'm sorry about Lily's questions. She's at that stage where she says exactly what she's thinking." Claire shook her head gently. "Please don't apologize. She's wonderful." Children speak truth before they learn to hide it. "There's honesty and healing in that." "She warmed up to you quickly," Robert said. "She doesn't usually do that." Claire paused thoughtfully. "Kids sense sincerity. They can feel who's safe. They haven't learned how to pretend." Robert hesitated, choosing his words. "May I ask something personal? How did you end up doing this kind of work?" "The companion service, I mean." Claire gazed out the window as the city lights slid past. "It's not too personal. I taught elementary school for several years. I loved it. But when my mother fell ill, I stepped away to take care of her. After she passed, I needed something flexible while I figured out my next path. A friend mentioned this service, and I decided to give it a try. It's not what people imagine yet. It can actually be deeply meaningful. You're helping people through moments they'd rather not face alone." "I'm sorry about your mother," Robert said quietly. "Thank you," Claire replied, her voice gentle. "It was 2 years ago. Alzheimer's. She didn't remember me toward the end, but I stayed with her every day anyway." Love doesn't depend on memory. Something in her words, so quietly spoken, so deeply felt, stirred something inside him. He suddenly understood why Lily had trusted her immediately. The gala was exactly as Robert expected: glittering chandeliers, elegantly dressed guests, champagne bubbling in slender glasses, a string quartet setting the tone. Colleagues and their partners approached with warm greetings, but for the first time in years, none carried that familiar mixture of sympathy and discomfort. Claire didn't pretend to be anything she wasn't. She spoke comfortably with everyone about books, art, children, life, never trying too hard, never overstepping. When asked, she simply explained she was accompanying Robert as a friend for the evening. Somehow that sincerity made everything feel natural instead of staged. At dinner, she delighted the table with stories from her teaching years, saw innocent jokes children made, the surprising wisdom they sometimes offered, the small joys found in guiding young minds. "You must miss it," one of the executives' wives remarked. "Teaching?" Clara smiled. "I do. But caring for my mother taught me something important. Life sometimes leads us down side paths. Maybe we're meant to learn something there. Maybe I'll go back to teaching eventually, a broken bar, or maybe I'll discover something new. I'm trying to trust the journey instead of rushing it." Robert watched her with quiet admiration. There was a steadiness about her, a calm acceptance of life's unpredictability that he had lost long ago. Since Jennifer's death, he had clung to control as if it were oxygen. Claire, meanwhile, seemed to breathe freely. Later, during the dancing portion of the event, Claire stepped aside to make a phone call to a friend. Feeling the need for air, Robert wandered onto the balcony, staring at the glittering city below. His phone vibrated. "Mrs. Walsh." "I'm sorry to disturb you, Mr. Carson," she said gently. "But Lily is asking for you. She can't sleep, and she's getting upset." Robert felt his chest tighten. Lately, bedtime had become a struggle. Lily's growing fear that one day he might not come home. "I'm on my way," he said immediately. He found Claire inside and explained, "I am really sorry, I need to leave. I can have my driver take you home and send your payment." Claire shook her head softly. "Please don't worry, I'll come with you. I'd like to tell Lily good night anyway." He almost refused, but the sincerity in her expression stopped him. It wasn't pity, just genuine kindness. They drove home in a peaceful quiet. When they arrived, Mrs. Walsh met them at the entrance. "She's in her room," the housekeeper said. "Poor little girl, she had a nightmare about a Lily ko jab padichalak Robert wapas a gaya hai, ask shahra paroi hua soon for abhra a, daddy, mudge burasapna amayathe a broken bar a salaga jays apim mommy ki ter wapas naya anj, Robert ni use apni ban mina thalia. Aski kodi si dunia co-op and say chipka kar, mania hin hoon, princess, hamshop wapas a tiranga, hamshop, Claire chupsh ap darways puzkadi thi, andano kodik hu, anki nazran minak, jehri samaj the awa samaj joseph wala grakt hain jo kut kabi kuchkil chu kod hain, Claire ni narmi se pucha, Lily. Kaya main tum kuch baton, bakchini and su posh huser hiladia, Claire bistark pus bath gay, jab main tum hari amar kithi, mudge bid dar lag thathay, dotty ni mudge ck thay a broken bar fikrakarnak rocking chair a hodi high, ap hilt red ho. Parka hen po anch nai, unhon ka hathak buriho sakti high, lekan jo aka aj tum hair pus high. Aska shakrated karna sayada zerori high, Lily ni hal kisia was mine kaha, parmir sath buriho chuka high, mommy margay, Claire nias bal sambal tu kaha, han, beto, urya bilkonas and sofi thi, par furbit tumhair pus tumhair daddy hain. Jo ek phone 8 high sab kuch kad kar tumhair pus a gay, Mrs. Walsh high, tumhair dust hain, tum parba et sorapa air barsa hua high, thodi derek bad Lily need here say pucha, kai ap ab jarai hain, Claire ni Robert ki teraf dika, mudge jana shahia broken bar shamad. Please thodi deruk ja a broken bar jab tak main sunajon, Robert ko laga Claire shamad mazrat kar degi. Magarazn baz halki si muskur utkseth Robert ki ijas atdeki. Robert need here sakaha, agar tum rucko to mudge gushi hogai, Claire rocking chair par bath gay, Robert Lily pos let go, Claire ni ak kub sewer at, tasli bari kahani sune a ak bohender bak shiki. Jais sein doggy ni sikadia thakpa arham shakauf says iodate a kant war hodi high, kahani katam hot hot Lily ki sansan hall ki musta kill hot shuki thi, nich kitchen mine cabinet hu Robert ni kaha, shakriya, tam yasab karn kizer at na thi, Claire nigaram kupakad kar kaha. Main kud karnish sherdi thi, tum hari bati bo at ka is high, anki ba at cheat der tak jari ra ye gam, ye din, zan doggy kayajib mod, wat air jo kabi dil mine chop kar red hain, Robert ni peli barap dil kian batan ko zubandi jo wokabi kisi say na ikeda, Claire ni har laughs ko samaj karsuna, rout bo at ho chuki thi, Claire ni kaha, my jab jana shahai, main kurdadi hoon. Robert ni kaha, rast mine dono kika amoshi ajib tor parsekund arai, ask building samruk kar Robert ni kaha, mudge tumhari fia broken bare, Claire ni askiba at hall kisi muskur at say katdi, aj ki rout kisi kam kahisan aithi. Robert, ye broken bar kucho high thay, mir li bibo at mani rakdi high, wasko hath halk say dabakar building kanderchili. Robert bo at der tak steering wheel par bathi muskur at mine kilgo, subanash te par Lily ni pucha, dadya broken bar kai a Claire for agi, Robert ko samajna ye a rahatha kai a kanishai, lekansak halk isimas kon ban karas kandan takayama, mudge biwa akilagi, dink beach mine Robert ka phone ja Claire ka number. Main surf yepuch nasherdi thia broken bar Lily abkazi hi, for isssak call sajo silsilisher yuhua, while museum trips, art sessions, chodi muskur at lamon ka aknesa for bango, Claire kabi Jennifer ki jagalin ki kashish nai kardi thia baz unkar minak nei roshani bankray a jadi thi, mahino mine jodori thi. What heard here McGay, Robert Cadell, Jose Allah say bantha, hearsay dobara kumlaga, aksham jab lily fireflies copy jakar ra'ithi, Robert ni Claire ka hathema, jab maina service kokal kiatha, mujbazek mushkalrat sambal ni thaya broken bar main kabiyan I sochathak tumri sign doggy kotna ahamkis aban jagi. Claire Kia was narm the main bikabina isochate par kabi kabizine doggy sabs sayadikubsur atab hodi high jabapas plant karnak hudded home. Robert need here sakaha, mujdo barakisi koko din kabo at der lag the hive. Claire nias kohatha urzayadamas budise pakda. Roberta broken bar dono jadhain gzan doggy kakoi walanai. Lekanai ss walk the broken bar islam may ina broken bar main tumher sathun, tumher ra lily climir dilmine wakai kuchbo at jehrahai. Hamain whale walked say dart huge bisakt haina broken bar ya furjo mil rahayas kashakriya ada kark jina shuryu kar sakt hain.